Alright, today we're going to talk about something a little bit different, but it's still going to be relevant because it does have to do with self-defense, which this channel is primarily about. We're going to talk about traditional martial arts for self-defense. Now, give you a little bit of background. I got into martial arts when I was in my mid to late 20s, and I won't go into what ranks I've achieved. Um, I will tell you that I have several years training in martial arts. I started with Taekwondo, moved on to Shotokan, and a little bit of Jiu-Jitsu. Um, Along the way, I got involved with some other stuff such as restraining holds and compliance holds that had to deal with security work that I was doing at the time. Anyways, does traditional martial arts, is it effective for self-defense? Now that's kind of a loaded question because some training in unarmed combat is better than no training. However, traditional martial arts, most schools are focusing on, let's call it sport karate or sport martial arts. A lot of it's no contact and it's in a very controlled environment. Um, and you're competing for a ribbon or some kind of trophy. Um, Traditional martial arts, as they were originally, you were training for self-defense. You had to train like you were going to fight, and that's the same with any self-defense. You train the way you're going to fight, and you're going to fight the way you train. Um, Unfortunately, most American martial arts are for sport. It's very few dojos or martial arts schools, studios that actually focus on self-defense nowadays. That being said, that doesn't mean that you can't use it for self-defense. Um, if you train in the manner that you plan to use it, such as let's say you're trying to put an armbar on somebody. Okay, well, in the studio, in the dojo or martial arts school, whatever you want to call it, um, you are first trying to do it with no resistance. Your partner is non-resisting, and they pretty much just tap out as soon as they start to feel the hold. That gives you a basic understanding of how to apply the hold. In the real world, who you're trying to restrain in an armbar is not going to just passively let you put them in an armbar. They are going to be resisting with everything they can. And a lot of times, if they're stronger than you, um, everything that you're taught is going to be thrown out the window. And a lot of times in a real fight, real fights are unpredictable. And traditional martial arts training is predictable. Um, even when you're doing kumite, which is sparring with another opponent, you you learn to be able to predict their movements because they have basically the same kind of training as you do. You know that when you throw a taekwondo punch, it's going to come from the hip, and it's going to rotate. And you get used, and that's how you are learning to block. You're doing your four corner blocking, to get away from that stuff. They call it blocking, but you're really just deflecting the blow, moving it away from you so it doesn't cause harm. Blocking is more like if a punch is coming this way, this is more of a block. Um, Same thing with boxing. You'll see boxers put their hands up here. They're they're covering their face. They're covering the sides of their head. They're keeping their elbows in tight to protect that thoracic cavity. Not so much the abdominal cavity, though. There's other defenses that they use for that. Primarily, boxers just toughen their abdominal cavity, basically their abs, to take a punch. Same thing in the traditional martial arts. Before we ever started sparring kumite, we had to learn how to take a kick to the abdominal cavity, to the abs. When you get into a real fight, though, it's very seldom going to be what you trained against. You're going to have fists coming around like this. You're going to have them coming in every different direction that you have not been trained for. And everything that you learned goes out the window, and you have to adapt to the situation. Now, that doesn't mean that if you're taking a martial arts class or if you're enrolled in a karate dojo that you're wasting your money. That's not what I'm saying at all, because like I said to begin with, some training is better than no training. However, if you think that because of all those belts that you've earned makes you a better fighter, you're sadly mistaken. What makes you a better fighter is getting into fights. And let me tell you, when you're in a fight, you don't want to be in a fight. That being said, I've been fortunate that when I've had to defend myself with my martial arts, I was able to end the threat quickly and effectively. Not always with the best outcome that I would have liked. The main thing is I didn't get hurt too bad, and they didn't get hurt too bad for the most case. Yeah, for the most part, I didn't hurt any too bad. Only one time did I actually hospitalize somebody, and that was when I was really early in my Taekwondo training. I just got my green belt, which is when you start Kumite. They don't call it Kumite in Taekwondo because, of course, Taekwondo is Korean, Karate is a Japanese form, but it's basically sparring. I just started out in Kumite, and my head had swelled. I was working unarmed security at the time, and we went to go serve a trespass on somebody, and he didn't like that idea and picked up a steel chair and came at me with it, and I did what I was trained to do. I kicked him in the head, and it I I caught him right in the temple, and I was wearing steel reinforced combat boots, so it dropped him like that. His head hit the bricks and busted his head open, and he started convulsing. And I'll tell you, I thought I killed the guy, and I thought I was going to prison, and it was very uncomfortable for me. But I didn't get hurt. So, and luckily in that instance, I had a lot of witnesses around that basically told the police, yeah, this guy came at him with a steel chair, and dude went Chuck Norris on him. So I didn't get in any trouble for that. I did, however, get in a little bit of trouble with the company that I worked for, because they don't want us going around kicking people in the head. They want us to be able to do restraints and stuff. So they put me through a restraint class that basically a lot of the techniques that are taught to police officers, you know, blood chokes, restraining arm bars, wrist locks, stuff like that. So they paid for me to go through this training course, which it was like a 4-hour class, and we did some hands-on, but it wasn't, practical experience. But it's stuff that I learned, and I don't get a lot of opportunity to practice it, but I feel confident that I can still use it if I had to. Anyways, back to the whole traditional martial arts thing. You know, the main thing is don't let your head get big because of the belts that you've earned. Um, I remember one of the things uh, one of my senseis, or Kwanjan Nim, Taekwondo, said to me was, it's not the size of the fight. It's not the size of the dog in the fight. It's the size of the fight in the dog. What it comes down to is the willpower. And even in kumite or sparring, the fight is usually decided before the first punch is ever even thrown. If you have defeated your opponent mentally, you're going to defeat them physically and spiritually. Um, a lot of it has to do with mindset. And when it comes to self-defense, it's how bad do you want to survive? Um, if that means biting somebody's nuts off, are you willing to go that far? Are you willing to gouge out somebody's eyeballs to keep your children or your loved ones safe? Um, these are things you have to ask yourself. Anyways, I just kind of wanted to go over the whole traditional martial arts of self-defense. It's better than nothing, but don't think because you're a purple belt or a red belt or even a black belt that you're untouchable, because you're not. You know, you see these videos all the time of these kung fu masters fighting against an MMA fighter. The modern UFC type guys. Well, the difference is okay. The kung fu master, he's really good at the technique. He's a master for a reason. He's got the technique down. However, he doesn't have much fighting experience. He's got a lot of teaching experience. He's got a lot of technique, but he doesn't have a lot of fighting experience. And those MMA fighters, they've got tons of fighting experience. Now, I wanted to get on to another point. If you are in a dojo and you're training, if you want to get better, if you want to be the best that you can be, and you're training for self-defense, don't spar against somebody the same rank as you. Every opportunity you can, spar with somebody who is a higher rank than you, a bigger opponent, a stronger opponent, and maybe even a better fighter overall. Because one of the most valuable lessons I learned in my martial arts experience is humility and getting my butt kicked a few times. And that's something that happens in a lot of dojos or martial arts studios. If the senior instructors see that you're basically having your way with some other student who is in equal or lesser rank than you, they're going to step in and they're going to work you over a little bit. That is an honor. So don't take it as you're being disciplined. That is an honor for them to take the time out to give you basically one-on-one instruction, even if that instruction is getting your butt whooped a little bit. Anyways, that's today's Jacketed Hollow Points. Take it for what it's worth. If you like it, like it. If you don't like it, dislike it. I don't care. If you've had any martial arts training, let me know what you think of this down in the comments section. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.